boy does only one thing at school every day. He practices his grip strength over and over again. He thought no one would notice his strange behavior. But unexpectedly, after class, the class goddess approached him. However, the girl actually didn't like him, because he didn't even know her name. "Good morning, Kageyama." "Morning, Nishimura." "My name's not Nishimura." "Ah, sorry, Nishitani." "My name's not Nishitani either." But what bothered the girl the most wasn't this. It was that the boy seemed to be hiding a secret. Even though they were standing face to face, his gaze didn't seem to acknowledge her. It was as if his eyes pierced right through her, looking far beyond. The girl's name was Nishino. She was the school's most popular beauty. No matter her background, looks, grades, or character, she was outstanding. Her grace and friendly demeanor made her the perfect image among her classmates. But all of this was just a facade to hide her pain. When Nishino was young, she was kidnapped and caught in a scandal. Since then, she had developed deep psychological scars. Every day, she wore a mask to protect herself, deliberately acting like the perfect girl in everyone's eyes. However, after school today, Nishino walked home alone, but she kept hearing footsteps behind her. When she turned to look, there was no one there. Yet as she turned forward again, a tall figure suddenly appeared in front of her. Terrified, she tried to run, but her path was blocked by others. Soon, a blonde-haired man rushed toward Nishino, covering her mouth and nose with a towel. Within moments, her body weakened, and she slowly passed out. Before losing consciousness, she vaguely saw the boy hiding nearby, and she regained consciousness. She found herself in an unfamiliar, abandoned warehouse. Two kidnappers stood in front of her, planning to use her life to extort money. Little did they know, the entire scene was being watched by the boy outside the warehouse. He immediately removed the weights he was carrying, then unzipped his backpack. Taking out his tools, he began climbing up the pipes. Then, he landed gracefully in style. "Damn it, who are you?" "Me? I'm just a dashing vigilante killer." The blonde-haired man glared at the masked intruder, immediately pulling out a gun to finish him off. But before he could act, his hand was pierced by a blade. The next second, he was slammed to the ground by the boy. With one swift kick, the blonde man was knocked unconscious. However, the boy became even more alert, as the brawny man behind him was the toughest he had ever seen. Man, impressed by the boy's strength, was thrilled. He said it had been a long time since he had enjoyed a real fight after leaving the military. As he spoke, he tossed aside his gun, ready for hand-to-hand combat. "Welcome, dashing vigilante killer. Welcome to this crazy world." After just a brief exchange of blows, the boy's arm was slashed, leaving a wound. Taking advantage, the brawny man launched a fierce attack. But the boy blocked the assault with a crowbar, even disarming the knife from his opponent's hand. However, the brawny man remained unfazed. After all, his size still gave him a massive advantage. Using a series of military combat moves, he found an opening and threw the boy with force. He then smirked in satisfaction, thinking he had secured his victory. Little did he know, he had only angered the boy, for the crowbar in the boy's hands held untapped potential. "What? I've discovered the true potential of the crowbar. It's shaped like an Eastern staff, sturdy, portable, and perfectly balanced. It has limitless possibilities, and I spend every night beating up noisy street gangs. You take on gangs with nothing but a crowbar. You're the masked berserker." Realizing he couldn't win, the brawny man tried to grab his gun. But the boy stopped him before he could reach it. In the end, the man was ruthlessly defeated. When it was all over, the boy calmly approached Nishino. He cut the ropes binding her with a small knife, then left the scene alone before the police arrived. And so, Nishino's crisis was resolved. But she still didn't know who had saved her. The next day, she returned to school as usual. She greeted the boy in the hallway as usual. But this time, something had changed. "Good morning, Kageyama." "Morning, Nishino." Wrong, I'm not Nishino, auntie." At that moment, Nishino realized that the boy, like herself, always wore a mask in life. Maybe they could find a way to get along. But then, the next day, the boy was suddenly hit and killed by a truck. However, he didn't truly die. He was fortunate to be reincarnated in another world. In this world, he gained the magic he had always dreamed of. With this power, he could achieve the dreams he couldn't in his previous life. 10 years passed like this. The boy regularly practiced swordsmanship with his sister. But strangely, his sister always felt something off during their training. She would often unconsciously touch her neck. However, she didn't know that the boy had been hiding his true strength all along. "Sis, you're too strong." Although the boy pretended to be ordinary on the surface, when night fell, he revealed his true nature. Against the boy's true strength, the bandits were like weak ants. They were slaughtered in an instant, avenging the innocent victims of the caravan. Afterward, the boy began collecting gold coins, intending to use them to develop his own organization later. Unexpectedly, he found a cage nearby. Lifting the white cloth, he discovered a lump of living flesh. Out of curiosity, he brought it to his secret hideout. Every day, he conducted experiments on it. Then, 2.5 months later, the lump of flesh underwent a strange transformation. It suddenly turned into a young girl. At that moment, the boy didn't panic at all. Instead, he came up with a bold idea. He presented the girl as a descendant of heroes, claiming that history had been altered by an evil cult. This led to them being cursed as demon-possessed. The boy then established an organization called Shadow Garden, with the goal of overthrowing the Diabola's cult. "I am Shadow, lurking within the shadow, hunting those in the shadow." This is a thorny path, but we must face it head-on. The descendants of heroes, do you have the courage to walk this path with us? After inviting the girl to join Shadow Garden, the boy gave her the name Alpha. And so, just like that, peaceful days continued until his sister turned 15. At this age, nobles would leave to study at the Royal Academy. But on the day of her departure, she suddenly vanished without a trace. In a desolate and unfamiliar dungeon, his sister was tightly bound by anti-magic chains. Even in such a state, her heart showed no trace of fear. However, the white-haired captor crossed the line. He arrogantly declared he would capture the boy as well. This immediately enraged his sister. "If you dare lay a hand on my brother, I will never forgive you. You even scraped the flesh off your own wrist. I'll kill every single one of your loved ones and friends. I'll destroy them all." After knocking his sister unconscious, one of the underlings ran in to request backup. He reported that they were being attacked by an unknown force. Hearing this, the white-haired man rushed to investigate, but he was still a step too late. Everyone except him had already been slaughtered. It turned out the Shadow Garden had come to rescue the sister. Over 3 years, the boy had recruited more members. Seeing the situation, the white-haired man swung his sword at Alpha, but the difference in their strength was insurmountable. In no time, Alpha landed a strike on him. In desperation, he swallowed a pill, which instantly unleashed immense power. He knocked Alpha away in one blow. After destroying the ground below, the white-haired man secretly fled the scene. But on the way, someone blocked his path. It was the boy, waiting for him all along. Seeing that his opponent was alone, the white-haired man immediately launched an attack. His full-force strike was effortlessly blocked by the boy. He was even mocked for his monotonous use of magic. What was even more despairing was that no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't land a hit. Instead, his own wounds kept increasing. In the end, the white-haired man realized that his strength was nowhere near the boy's level. So, to make up for the gap, he had no choice but to ignore the side effects of the drug. In an instant, he swallowed the entire bottle. Although his strength increased dramatically, he was still no different from before in front of the boy. No matter how he attacked, it was effortlessly dodged. In the end, his weapon was knocked out of his hand. He could only watch helplessly as the boy delivered a fatal strike. So it's not just swordsmanship. It's everything. Before the darkness I am utterly powerless. And yet... Melia, the boy gazed at his lifeless opponent. Finally, he silently pocketed the white-haired man's pendant. Before leaving, he still offered his respect. After all, as a thief, the man's strength was the greatest he had ever seen. Once everything was over, his sister was freed the next day and returned home. What impressed the boy was that she only rested for one night. Then, as if nothing had happened, she went alone to the Royal Academy. That evening, the boy began to yearn for life in the royal capital. Although he still had 2 years before he could go, he found it hard to part with the Shadow Garden members. Shadow, the time has come for us to leave your side. Goodbye. If anyone scores poorly, they'll have to confess to the princess in front of everyone. And so, the boy became the laughingstock. He thought Princess Alexia would reject him outright. To his surprise, "I understand. I've been waiting for someone like you. Please take care of me." "All right." Since that day, the boy became the center of attention at school. Even his roommates couldn't hide their jealousy, complaining that they wished they had been the one to confess. But as soon as they said that, Alexia suddenly appeared beside them, gracefully joining him for dinner. In truth, her reason for visiting him was to invite him to attend her swordsmanship class. Your practical training this afternoon is with the Royal Capital's Bushinryu, right? Yes, let's attend class together. Isn't that a bit inappropriate? I'm in the lowest, the 9th class. It's fine. I used my recommendation to secure you a spot in the 1st class. I see. In the end, the boy was brought to the 1st class. Unlike the lower-ranked classes, this class had instructors who were national-level swordmasters. Even the students were top-tier elites. At the teacher's instruction, the boy began a sparring session with Alexia, although it was just a basic drill to check sword techniques and counters. The boy still felt something was off. Alexia's swordsmanship was too ordinary, too plain. At first, he thought she was holding back to match him. But later, he realized that wasn't the case. She was simply an untalented, ordinary person. Her current skill level was purely the result of step-by-step effort. After finishing today's lesson, the boy finally understood Alexia's intentions. It turned out that her fiancé was instructor Zenon. However, Alexia didn't like him, so she enlisted the boy to act as her shield. Seeing this situation, the boy tactfully left the classroom. After school that day, the boy decided to end his connection with Alexia. He stated that he just wanted a peaceful life, and didn't want to get involved in troublesome matters. Unexpectedly, Alexia had already learned about his bet. She had casually tricked his roommate, who revealed everything without hesitation. If she exposed their bet, the boy would no longer have a peaceful life at school. Then, Alexia pulled out a gold coin, as payment for him to continue acting as her shield. For the next few days, the boy continued his relationship with Alexia. The two were inseparable every day, even deliberately flaunting their affection in front of Zenon. But Zenon didn't seem to care at all, which left Alexia furious. To make their relationship more convincing, Alexia even bought 2 ice creams. At this point, the boy voiced his doubts. After all, Zenon seemed like the perfect fiancé in every way. He couldn't understand why Alexia disliked him. However, Alexia didn't think so. Having grown up in the royal family, she understood that perfection was often just a facade. This was why, despite the boy's flaws, Alexia found him less repulsive. 2 weeks passed like this. One day, the two were on a train discussing swordsmanship. Although the boy had no remarkable traits beyond solid basics, he somehow always drew attention. Hearing this seemingly complimentary remark, the boy noticed Alexia was acting unusually today, so he asked her what was wrong. After some discussion, he learned that Alexia's older sister was a true genius. Meanwhile, Alexia saw herself as an ordinary person. To prove herself, she worked tirelessly under strict expectations to grow stronger. But in the end, the words she heard most often were, "The sword of a mortal." That's right. Like me, you wield the sword of a mortal. How unfortunate. The boy didn't find it unfortunate. Instead, he said he liked Alexia's swordsmanship. However, as soon as he said that, it sounded like mockery to Alexia. This was because, after her humiliating defeat at the Bushin Festival, her older sister had said the exact same words. Even so, the boy stood firm in his opinion. This immediately infuriated Alexia. She drew her sword and pointed it at him. "What do you mean by that?" "Nothing. If I had to say something, I just don't like it when something I care about is dismissed. That's probably how I feel." "I see. Goodbye." In the end, they parted on bad terms. The boy thought they would never cross paths again. But the next day, something unexpected happened. Members of the Knight's Order stood guard at the school gate. They specifically blocked the boy's path. Turned out Alexia had gone missing the night before. As the last person seen with the princess, the boy was a suspect. He was required to undergo an investigation by the Knights. Meanwhile, the princess awoke in the middle of the night, only to find her hands and feet tightly bound. What was even more terrifying was the twisted monster locked up next to her. Before she could react, a deranged man appeared in front of her. He placed several syringes on her legs. The princess immediately felt fearful, realizing that he intended to draw her blood for experiments. "Can I ask a question? What are you planning to do with my blood?" Your blood is the blood of the demon god." "Blood, blood, blood. It will awaken the demon god in this era." "I see, that's amazing. Although I don't really understand what you mean." However, while drawing the 4th syringe, the man suddenly began to panic. It turned out his laboratory had been sabotaged. This disruption had brought his research to a halt. If he couldn't finish quickly, he would be expelled from his mentor's teachings. The man grew increasingly deranged as he spoke. He stormed into the next room to vent his anger on the monster. Seeing this, the princess felt a twinge of pity. She urged him to quickly finish drawing her blood. Hearing her words, Madman instantly regained his composure. He then grabbed a bowl of white porridge, and slowly walked toward her. He forcibly fed her the food. After all, only by replenishing her strength could the princess provide him with more blood for his experiments. Meanwhile, the boy was being tortured during interrogation. As the last person to have been with the princess, he was the prime suspect in her kidnapping. However, after 2.5 days of torment, he was released due to insufficient evidence. While his injuries could be healed with magic, he was still being secretly monitored. Continue hiding his strength. The boy endured the pain and maintained his facade. While walking down the street, he brushed past a familiar figure. Moments later, he heard the screams of his monitors. When he returned to his dorm, he opened the door and found a blonde-haired girl. It turned out the figure was Alpha. She had come to discuss matters regarding the evil cult. Through 2 years of investigation, it had been confirmed that the Knights Order had been infiltrated by the evil cult. The princess's kidnapping was also orchestrated by their members. Their goal was to research the high-purity bloodline of hero descendants. After explaining, Alpha prepared to leave, planning to act once everything was in place. However, that evening, something unexpected happened as the boy went outside. The Knights attempted to frame him. They threw the princess's shoe at him, revealing themselves as insiders planted by the evil cult. Now that he understood their purpose, the boy decided not to hide his strength any longer. In an instant, he annihilated them on the spot. Meanwhile, on the princess's side, the deranged man burst in, panicking. He muttered frantically about the base being under attack and doomed. As he spoke, he pulled out a giant syringe. He injected the princess's blood into the monster. Instantly, the monster's size grew enormously. But unexpectedly, the monster killed the deranged man in a single instant. The monster then turned its claws toward the princess. It spared me. After the monster left, the princess took the opportunity to find the key in the rubble. She unlocked the chains on her hands and feet. Then, she grabbed a sword from the ground, ready to escape. But after walking only a short distance, she was stopped by Instructor Zenon. Turned out he was the mastermind behind this incident. However, the princess didn't get angry. Instead, she laughed. Because her fiancé would finally disappear from her life, the princess instantly swung her sword, intending to kill Zenon on the spot. But he easily blocked her attack. He even mocked her, calling it a mortal sword. This enraged the princess. She unleashed her strongest sword technique. Unfortunately, it only managed to graze his arm. Zenon, seeing this, scoffed. He declared he would show her what true swordsmanship looked like. You'll never become like your sister. Come with me obediently. A mage clad in black armor? I am Shadow, lurking within the shadows, hunting those in the shadows. Meanwhile, the mutated monster, after destroying the dungeon, headed straight to the town, causing rampant destruction.